Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. I'm back after being gone for a week. I hope everyone gave Eli a lot of love and support last week. I actually haven't gone back and looked at your videos. I just trusted you did okay.
I think I'm all right. We didn't have any face cam video, but I think I made it. I think I made it work.
Hi, you made it work. That's cool. All right, so welcome everyone. I am Jessica. I'm the director of the planetarium. With me are two of our students who work for the planetarium. I guess I already somewhat introduced Eli, so I'll let him say hi.
Hi, I'm Eli. I'm a physics and astronomy student at UMD.
And we also have.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a biology and environmental science student at UMD.
So tonight, we are doing a show we've done a couple of times and it's always like pretty popular. But given the spike in Aurora activity we had the past couple weeks, I thought it would be really good to do the show again. So we're going to be taking a look at the mystery of the Northern Lights and take a look at exactly what the aurora are, what causes them, and then at the end we'll get into some like tips and tricks to help you if you want to try and see it for yourself. So as always, if you have any questions throughout the show, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Eli is going to be watching that for me. Yes, okay. And will let me know if questions come up. We'll also have time at the end for questions as well. And with that, let me get switched over. I am out of practice. I'm forgetting where all my buttons are. There we go. Okay. That should be good. Awesome. Okay, so getting into the mystery of the Northern Lights. So the Northern Lights, or the Aurora Borealis, as you've probably heard them, usually appear as this dancing glow or curtain of lights that kind of slowly, or sometimes a little quickly, move across the sky, kind of dancing and twirling, and it's very pretty. But the Northern Lights, or the Aurora Borealis, are not the only auroras that we have here on the Earth. There are actually auroras around the southern magnetic pole as well. So the Aurora Borealis is the one in the northern hemisphere that is around the northern magnetic pole. And then we have the southern lights, or the Aurora Australis, that's down in the southern hemisphere around the southern magnetic pole. And so you can see here that around both poles we have this kind of ring of aurora. This is the auroral zone, and that is hopefully the only time I'm going to try and say that tonight because that is difficult to say. So the size of this ring kind of changes and varies, and we'll get into what causes that in a little bit. But as long if you are inside of that zone, you will see the aurora. So before we get into the science of everything and kind of what's causing this, I thought it would be cool to take a little look at some of the cultural inspiration driven by the aurora, so like some fun mythologies and things around it. And we're going to start with the namesake, Aurora. So that actually is derived from the name of the Roman goddess of the dawn, who traveled from east to west announcing the coming of the sun. And so this was like the bringer of the light, okay? And then Borealis comes from the word boreas, which means wind. So Aurora Borealis is the northern wind that brings the light, which kind of makes sense. Now, one of my favorite mythologies around the aurora comes from Finland. I unfortunately can't show this whole video, and I can't really show it with sound, or else I get tagged for all sorts of copyright, and I would like our stuff to stay up so people can watch it afterward. So I'm going to show you a short little clip from this. Ooh, never mind, there is sound. Let me mute that real quick. So in Finnish mythology, the aurora is known as the Firefox. And so what you're seeing is either the fiery tail of the fox as he flies across the sky, or another way that I've seen it is it's the sparks caused as his tail hits the snow as he's running around very quickly. But that is the Finnish Firefox to explain the aurora. If you would like to watch this whole short video, which is adorable and I love it, I have the link down in the video description, so go check that out. All right, some other mythologies. To the Chinese, in the very rare occasion that they saw the aurora, they saw it as a celestial battle between good and evil dragons. And whichever one won would, of course, dictate how things went for the foreseeable future. And then another one that I really like is the Inuit saw the aurora as as their ancestors up in the sky playing a game. And so their kind of dancing lights around the sky was their ancestors running around and playing a game. And that just, I don't know, it gives me all warm, fuzzy feelings. And I really like that interpretation of kind of what the aurora was. All right, so let's get into what actually is going on here, what's causing the aurora. And we're going to start here with the giant star at the center of our solar system, the sun, because that is the main cause. So you can see here that the sun pretty regularly has the stream of charged particles that's always coming off of it. This is what we call the solar wind. And it's pretty regular. Now, exactly how much is streaming off, that can vary over time, but there's always some charged particles streaming off of the sun in the solar wind. In addition to that, the sun can also let loose solar flares, which is what you're kind of seeing right here. And I think I have another video. Yeah, this is my favorite video of a flare. So these happen when you have these loops of gas that are arching off of the surface of the sun. We call these prominences. And sometimes these loops stretch so far that the magnetic field that's holding them in place actually snaps, just like if you stretch a rubber band too far. When it snaps, it flings all of that gas out into space, and you end up with a bunch of extra gas and charged particles flung out away from the sun. Now, the biggest version of these are what we call coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, and you just get a lot of material flung off the sun during one of these. So we have all of these charged particles flying off of the sun, heading in all directions, including towards us, towards the Earth. Well, thankfully, for the most part, we really aren't affected by any of this because the Earth has a magnetic field. Now, it's invisible, but just like if you've ever played with a magnet and kind of like iron filings, and you can watch as the iron kind of follows these like arched paths, what you're seeing is the iron moving along the magnetic field that is usually invisible to your eye, but the iron kind of traces it out. Well, the Earth has a very similar structure of a magnetic field where we have these loops of magnetic field looping out from either pole, which is the north magnetic pole and the south magnetic pole. And so this magnetic field acts like a shield, and it blocks most of those charged particles and deflects them out and away from us, and we're good, which is a really good thing, because without it, the solar wind would actually strip our atmosphere and we would eventually be left with nothing, which is not a good thing, at least not if we would like to live here. So our magnetic field deflects most of these charged particles, but it's not 100%. It doesn't deflect all of them. Some charged particles do make it into the magnetosphere, the area around the Earth that's dominated by its magnetic field. And when it does so, those charged particles end up becoming trapped and follow the magnetic field down to either pole, either down to around the North Pole or around the South Pole. And so they kind of get trapped and funneled down to the pole, and as they fly down and they end up hitting Earth's atmosphere and they hit the gases. Now, those gases, when they get hit, they end up getting a little bit of extra energy. And they don't like having extra energy, so they give that up. And they give that up in the form of light. Now, depending on what type of gas was hit, whether it was oxygen or nitrogen, that determines what color light it gives off. And so this is where the different colors of the aurora come in. You've probably seen aurora mostly as greens, but it can also come in kind of reds and blues and things as well. So the reds are due to oxygen that's higher up in the atmosphere. And so it's because it's higher up, it's spread further apart. And because of that, when it's hit and it gains that extra energy and then gives that energy away, it ends up glowing red. Now, a bit lower down in the atmosphere, the oxygen is packed a little bit closer together, and that actually changes what type of light it gives off, and it ends up glowing green instead of red. So both the red and the green are caused by oxygen. It's just the red is the oxygen that's higher up in the atmosphere, and the green is the oxygen that's lower in the atmosphere. And then we also have some blues in there, and that comes from nitrogen. So if nitrogen gets hit, it ends up glowing blue. So this really gorgeous video here taken on the International Space Station, you can really see that red from the oxygen higher in the atmosphere and the green lower down. The blue can be difficult to see, which is why we're not seeing it very well right now. This is then any other color of aurora you see is a combination of these colors. So if you end up seeing purples, that's the red and the blues. If you see pinks, that's probably just a really light red. If they look more whitish, either it's too dim for your eye to pick up on the color, or you're seeing a bunch of colors combined, which you can sometimes get kind of in the transition here between the greens and the reds. It can start to look a little bit more whitish in color. All right, so back to this real quick, because I realized I forgot to bring something up. So since the charged particles are being funneled down to the poles, this is where those, I'm going to have to say this word again, auroral zones are created. And that's why they are centered around the poles, the North and South Pole. Now, the size of this ring changes depending on how much stuff is making it through into our magnetic field and hitting our atmosphere. So when we have a case like a solar flare, that is directed straight at the Earth, that's going to send a lot more stuff towards us, which means it's more likely that more is going to get through, so there's going to be more hitting the atmosphere, and so that zone, that ring, ends up becoming bigger and brighter because you just have more stuff hitting the atmosphere, and so you get this enhanced activity. And so that's where you get those kind of changes in the intensity and the changes in where exactly you can see it, just depending on how active it is, based off of how much stuff is hitting us, based off of what the sun flung at us. Okay, so before we wrap up and start looking at kind of tips and tricks to help you if you want to try and see the aurora for yourself, I want to take a look at a few other planets in our solar system, because it turns out Earth is not the only planet to have an aurora. We can see right here, Jupiter and Saturn also have auroras. They are caused exactly the same way. Both Jupiter and Saturn have a magnetic field. Charged particles from the sun reach the planets. Most of them get deflected around by that magnetic field shield. Some of them make it through, hit the atmosphere, and cause the gas to glow. Now you'll see that these are bluer in color, and that's because the aurora we're seeing here is not visible light. It was given a false color so that we could pick it up. It's actually ultraviolet light. And this comes from the fact that the magnetic field is much stronger around these planets than around Earth. And that causes the charged particles to move even faster, so they hit with more energy, and so the gases release more energy, which causes them to glow ultraviolet instead of glowing greens and reds and the visible lights that we see from our aurora. So very similar, just stronger and more intense and a higher energy light because of the stronger magnetic fields. Now, we also see somewhat of an aurora. Do I have a picture? Yes, I do. Around Uranus and Neptune. So this is just Uranus. But you can see that it's more of like a spot instead of that ring like we see around Earth, Jupiter, and Saturn. And that's because there's some really funky stuff going on with Uranus and Neptune's magnetic fields. It's all askew and turned weird, and frankly, we really don't understand what's going on with it. And unfortunately, because they're so far away, and we've only had Voyager 2 in the 1980s make a close-up flyby, we just don't have a lot of good information. We don't have a lot of good data for these planets. So they have an aurora, it looks weird, probably because there's something really weird going on with their magnetic fields, which we don't understand at this point. Other than that, Venus doesn't really have an aurora because it actually doesn't have a magnetic field. That's a whole other topic of weird things going on in the solar system. And then same with Mars. Mars also does not, so it doesn't have aurora. And of course, Mercury doesn't have an atmosphere, so there's nothing for charged particles to hit to glow, so no aurora. All right, so you are interested, you want to try and see the aurora for yourself. How would you go about doing this? Well, first off, you need to try and get an idea of how active the aurora is and where the best places are to see it. And thankfully, there are quite a lot of ways to look at aurora forecasts. Unfortunately, aurora forecasts aren't very accurate more than, I'd say, 15 minutes in advance. And that's because, all of the I forgot the word, conditions that go into creating it, they can change so quickly, and we don't have the best way of like monitoring like the solar wind coming from the sun. So you may have probably seen like there's an enhanced chance of aurora this weekend because there's a flare heading our way, but sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes we don't actually see that much. And that's just the difficulty in predicting exactly how all of this is going to work out. But there are lots of sites that you can do this. Spaceweather.com, NOAA, both have aurora forecasts where they show the aurora ring. And so basically, if you're in that ring, you have a good chance of seeing the aurora. If you would like, I'm pretty sure in the video description, I do have links to both of those websites so you can explore it. If you are in the Duluth area or northern Minnesota, you could also check out Bob King, aka Astro Bob, his blog. He is always very good about putting up a post when there is a chance for aurora, and his site is also in the video description. Now, when you look at these aurora predictions, you will see oftentimes a map like this, but then you'll also see the aurora discussed in this KP index. And so KP index is kind of our scale for how active the aurora is. And you can see here it goes from 0 to 9, with 0 being, very quiet, little activity, and 9 being lots of extreme activity. Now, for us in the Duluth area, we really need the KP index to be at least a 5 or 6 to have a chance of seeing it from where we are. Now, the further north you are, the more likely you're able to see it even when it's having a quieter time, because that's just where the ring is mostly located during those quiet spells. So you want to see where the aurora ring is going to be, check out the KP index, and that can give you a somewhat good prediction of your chances of seeing the aurora at any given time. Now, if you would like to have a phone app, they make an app for that. This is the Aurora app. It is completely free. There is a link to it down in the video description. This is one that I use, I think a lot of us use. Well, I guess not a lot anymore since Lindsay left and Josh left. I'm just getting sad. Anyway, this is the app that we recommend. So it takes your GPS location and can show you real time the aurora ring and where you are at within it, can give you the KP index for your location. But the other really cool thing about it is you can set it up to push alerts so that for your location based off of your GPS, if the KP index starts going up, it'll actually send you a notification and be like, hey, KP index is going up. If you want to, try and see the aurora, you should probably head outside. So I really like that feature and being able to see that. Okay, so there's a chance of aurora. You want to go and try and see it. Where do you want to go? Well, we can give some recommendations, at least for the Minnesota area. Generally, though, you need to be as north as you possibly can. Here in Duluth, we can see the aurora. Again, like I said, when you're at like a KP index of at least a 5, you can see it kind of low in the horizon. And in that case, you really just need to get out of the main city to darker areas. So somewhere like Brighton Beach, Hawk Ridge, anything like that. But of course, if you can actually get further north up into like Two Harbors, Grand Marais, International Falls, Voyageurs National Park, any of those places, you're going to have dark skies and northern latitudes to give you a better chance of seeing it. But for any viewers down in the cities, I have been told, I haven't been here long enough to see this myself, but that you can see the aurora down in the cities when it is active enough for the ring to reach that far. In that case, the same principle applies. You just want to get out of the city, out of the light pollution, to dark areas, to a dark sky, so that you can try and see it. So you're out, hoping to see the aurora. What are you going to see? Well, unfortunately, what you see with your eye may not be as vibrant in color as the beautiful pictures that we see coming from photographers or videos, because cameras are able to leave their lens open for a longer period of time to collect more light than our eye does. And by collecting more light, the aurora then will appear brighter, and you'll also collect more light to show the colors better. So the images tend to show up much brighter, much more vibrant, and much more colorful than what you might see with your eye. So to your eye, you're probably going to see a glow kind of in the north, probably lower on the horizon unless you are pretty far north, and then it'll be higher in the sky. And it's likely going to be kind of a whitish glow, depending on, again, exactly how strong it is and where you're located. You can pick up color with your eye, but it has to be very strong where you're at to be able to see that. So it's most likely going to be kind of more of a whitish grayish glow in the north, and you won't be able to see it kind of moving around. Now, if you're unsure if you're out and you're unsure if what you're seeing is actually the aurora, one thing you can do is actually take your cell phone camera and take a longer exposure picture. Most cell phone cameras will allow you to change the exposure time. So you can take, a 10-second, 30-second image, and with that, you should start to be able to see more of that kind of greenish glow, if it is in fact the aurora that you're looking at. So to end on, that's just another example again of kind of the difference between what a camera would see and what your eyes would see. So to end on, if you want to try and look at the aurora, but you're maybe not in Minnesota, you're somewhere further south, or you are in northern Minnesota and you want to find out, hey, is the aurora actually active right now? Well, we have a tool for you to use. Some of you may remember this. We've talked about it quite a bit, but we partnered with the Gunflint Trail Historical Society to place an AllSky camera up at the Chik-Wauk Museum and Nature Center, which is, what is it, like 50 miles north of Grand Marais or something, or northwest of Grand
Yeah,
Marais.
somewhere in that ballpark, 50, 60.
Really far out there, super beautiful dark skies, and pretty far north, so they do get some good auroras. So the link to the camera's webpage is in the video description, and it does show kind of live views from the camera, so you can go and picture and see if the aurora is active or not. We also do have a Facebook page, it's Chik-Wauk AllSky Camera, which also posts updates and things like that. But I want to end on the spectacular video that we got with this camera back on the night of November 3rd. Some of you have probably seen this because we shared it everywhere. So if you have seen it, hopefully you don't mind watching it again. If you have not seen it, you are in for a treat, and I'm just going to shut up and let the video play. It's so pretty. I love when like the reds really start showing up, and so you get those like really pretty pinks in there. And my favorite right here, those purples. Oh, I love them. So yeah, very, very awesome resource that we have out there now, which has just been a great project, and I'm very proud of it and happy that it's live and that we're seeing some really amazing stuff like we saw on November 3rd. All right, well, with that, I think I'm going to stop talking. And let's see if we have any questions.
Yeah, we got a couple comments. One said, "Is there a month or months where the aurora occur more often?"
So that is that's a good question, and a topic I actually forgot to talk about. It is a pretty common misconception that the aurora is more prominent in the winter. And a lot of that is because, the very northern latitudes are where you see the aurora best, and they have snow on the ground for a big chunk of the year. You can see the aurora anytime throughout the year. The benefits to winter is, of course, the longer nights, which makes it a little bit easier maybe to see it. But the real factor is, again, the sun's activity. How much stuff is it throwing at us? Did we just have a flare or a CME? And the sun's activity does vary over about 11 years. And we are just finishing up with a minimum, meaning we didn't have really a lot of flares or activity, and the sun is starting to ramp up its activity. So over the next few years, as we head into solar maximum, we're going to be getting a lot more auroral activity, and I am ecstatic to see what this camera picks up and to go out and see it for myself. So yeah.
Somebody asked if we were having audio issues, cutting out frequently. I haven't seen anything from anybody else. I did notice our connection was a little spotty a few times, so maybe that was it.
Yeah, that could be it.
And then somebody posted a Facebook group that seems to be a Great Lakes kind of aurora.
Oh, is it the Aurora Hunters?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a good one. That's another good resource to take a look at. Yeah. All right. Well, if there are any other questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments, and we'll take a few minutes to see if anything else comes up. I don't know, Eli, have you gotten a chance to see the aurora?
No, I didn't. In the last couple, I mean, in my lifetime, I have, but not in the last couple weeks. Just kind of a testament to what Jessica was saying, that you can see them at more southern latitudes. I am from the Twin Cities area, and there was one time, God, it had to have been 15 years ago, that I was like down, like same latitude as the cities, not too far out from them either. So I mean, there was still a decent amount of light pollution, and I saw like pretty insane displays. So if the activity is there, you can really see them further south than we are.
Yep. And that, again, comes back to checking out the space weather, what the sun's doing, and checking out those aurora predictions.
Yeah, and in the next 5 years, it'll get a lot easier.
I'm so excited. Yeah, we did try and go out on the 3rd to go and try and see them. We didn't end up going too far out of Duluth, but we must have hit it right at one of those little like quiet spells you see in the video.
Yeah.
Because like we didn't see much. And then I get back and the next morning I see that video and I'm just like, we went out at the wrong time.
Yeah. I would say probably like a year ago right now, I went up to Gooseberry when I know there was like a good amount of activity. I was at Gooseberry Falls and I think I saw them kind of out on the horizon. So that's also a good spot. I mean, like all of those state parks up the North Shore, I mean, having the lake to one side of you is really good because then you don't have much light pollution coming from that area at all. So it's a good strategy, I think. We've gotten another couple comments.
Okay.
This might be a topic for a different show, but I'm interested in learning more about the concept of the Earth not shining as much as it used to, that it is in fact dimming. I've heard about that. I don't really know what it's about.
The Earth?
Yeah. I don't know what it's
I have
about.
not heard that.
I mean, my instincts would tell me it's like thermal emissions, but the atmosphere is getting hotter, so that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. You have intrigued me, and I'm gonna have to go do some research into that because I have not heard of that.
Yeah, I heard something about it. Maybe it's something about how like the atmospheric composition is like changing as like the temperatures rise, and that composition leads to less sunlight getting reflected or something like that out the atmosphere. It's something like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I will have to go look into that though.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the Earth is emitting light less than it used to. It's actually probably emitting more because it's hotter here. But yeah, it's the atmosphere is less reflective for
Okay.
some reason. I don't know why. Somebody said, why is the best time always like 3 a.m.?
Well, there's a good reason for that. That's because that's when we start facing towards the sun, so we're getting the like direct stream of stuff. There's reasons for why it happens very early. Same thing for like meteor showers.
Yeah, it's also just darker.
Yeah, darker. Yeah.
And then, what is the name of the app?
Aurora.
aurora.
Yep.
And then the same person pursuing the Earth shining less. I think it was due to fewer clouds reflecting light back out to space. Yeah, something like that. There's some climate change, atmospheric composition stuff.
Yeah, but it's very complicated.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah.
Actually, this is kind of fun to talk about. The Nobel Prize in Physics was just awarded like a month ago or something like that, and the award went to somebody who was doing like the study of atmospheres and like chaos in systems. It was pretty cool, actually. I think it was just one person, maybe it was two people. But yeah, so there are people looking into that. Where is the darkest place on Earth to look at the sky? Antarctica during the winter.
That's not a bad one. No, I'm trying to bring up. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Bringing up something real quick. Okay. Go back over here. Let's not show off all of my Chrome tabs. So this is a map of light pollution. So the pinker or redder or whiter, that's worse light pollution. So you can see it in the United States. You really need to either go west or come up here to northern Minnesota, where we have the world's largest dark sky sanctuary, which is the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, and the only level 1 dark skies, which is your true dark, no light pollution, or no artificial light pollution, on in the eastern US. Now, if you want to travel outside the country, yes, somewhere really far north, away from major cities, or Antarctica in the winter. Their winter.
It's a little chilly down there, though.
Yeah, but I think the show would be worth it.
Yeah, there are permanent bases down there, like year round.
Yep. But I will say that is why we have the camera placed where it is, because that is right on the edge of the Boundary Waters, right on the edge of those level 1 dark skies. So it really showcases those true, beautiful dark skies that are up there. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll give a few more minutes to see if any other questions come in. We've had some super fun questions so far. This has been a fun one, a great one to come back to. So while we give that a few more minutes, let me tell you about the rest of our shows. I guess show, really. So Saturday, we are doing a tour of the moons of the solar system, because there are hundreds of them, and quite a few of them are very interesting little worlds. And then next week, we are actually going to take off for the Thanksgiving holiday. And so we will not stream Wednesday or Saturday next week, but we will be back the week after for What's Up December and December Constellations. It's going by too fast, guys. All right, let's do one last look for any other questions.
What does Aurora mean?
So let me go find it again, make sure. Aurora is derived from the name of the Roman goddess of the dawn. That's what it comes from. And then, yeah, Borealis was like the northern wind. And then I think it was Aurora Australis was named after to have the same kind of naming convention. Because, most of our culture is influenced by other northern hemisphere cultures, so they didn't know what was going down below the equator.
I also just read a couple days ago, and I wonder if this factors in. Originally, Antarctica was called like Terra Australis.
Oh.
Yeah, that's when, because like at first they didn't know that it was there for sure, but they were like, maybe there's something down there, and so they called it Terra Australis, and then they figured out it actually was there. But then they also learned about Antarctica or Australia. So yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Star-related gift list for the upcoming holidays.
Ooh, okay.
You can buy a star and like name it. That's pretty cool.
Let's see. I mean, we're always advocates for telescopes. Which, if you are interested in buying a telescope and don't really know what you're looking for, we will do a telescope kind of beginner's guide to telescopes and buying guide. We'll probably do that right at the start of December.
Yeah.
So you can kind of check back for that because there are definitely some do's and don'ts to that, but it's not too tricky once you kind of understand the terminology that's used. Let's see. Books. I mean, Bob King has written some fantastic kind of amateur astronomy, understand and learn about the night sky books. I feel like I'm blanking so much.
The Marshall W. Alworth Planetarium has merchandise.
That's true. We do. There's a link to it down in the video description. Good plug, Eli. And we do also have long sleeve options and sweater options now. So.
I think of what else. Well, you can actually name a star after someone.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool. It's kind of like being able to like buy. I know you can buy like a square meter of land in Scotland and become a lord or something like that. It's kind of the same thing. Can't you buy like pieces of meteors?
Yes, you can. Have one.
Yeah, there you go.
This is mine. Yeah, I think it would really come down to the person.
Yeah.
Maybe Eli will do like a Facebook post of like some of our favorite things.
Yeah.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments if you'd be interested in like a post like that of like some of our like things that we would like to receive, or it's just some cool, fun, spacey or astronomy related gifts. And we'll put a little bit more thought into it. It's always hard to think when you're like put on the spot, right?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I think that's everything. So yeah, thank you everyone so much for hanging out with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. We are still doing our regular streaming every Wednesday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Central, except for next week because it's holiday and we like having days off too. I feel very selfish saying that.
Oh, it looks like somebody answered our question about the atmosphere. As more ice melts on the oceans, the open water absorbs more light that used to bounce off of white ice and snow. So the net effect is that the Earth is dimming.
Oh, that's really cool.
Well,
I mean,
kind of a bummer.
yes. It's the explanation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad, but that is definitely an effect I'd never thought about. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you for answering that for us. Okay. I think we're gonna call it. I think we're good. Not saying anything else. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.